Hello, everyone. This is W.A.K. William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. In today's special surprise event, Moon Cowboy, also known as Ricardo Fiel, and I peeled back the layers on a band we both truly admire, Spiritualized. We started with their first album, Laser Guided Melodies, and shared our opinions on favorite songs, concert experiences, etc. In addition, a very special guest showed up at the door by the name of Mark Refoy. Mark had done some previous work with the band and shared some of his indelible experiences. Grab a good drink, pull up a very comfortable chair, and enjoy our spotlight on the band Spiritualized. Hey everyone. Hey Jane. Oh yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Hey Jane, sweetheart, sweet light. Of course, that is Spiritualized. Hello, everyone. This is W.A.K. William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. In today's event, this very, very special event, we are going to shine a very bright light on a band that my good buddy Ricardo Fiel from Moon Cowboy, all the way from Spain, is going to join us in this little conversation as we kind of unfold and unpeel the layers of Spiritualized. And we're going to talk about specific albums that have had an impact on our lives, concert experiences. During this conversation, we want to hear from you as well. Type in anything related to our conversation, an album, a song, a memory, merchandise, anything that you would like to share, all good. Before we begin this conversation, this is a surprise event. What does that mean? What that means is maybe during this conversation, at some time, we might have a very special guest or two that will barge through these doors and share a tale of theirs related to their spiritualized experience. You never know in a surprise event. Okay, enough from me. I want to bring in my good online friend, Ricardo Fiel. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks,
Cheers.
Sylvia.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So,
It's later here, so I can do this one.
can you just let the audience know who you are, what you do, and your first taste?
Yeah. Yeah. So I been in a lot of bands throughout the years. I currently play by the name Moon Cowboy. Um, Kind of a shoegazy dream pop solo act at the moment. Um, I'm based out of Portugal, so it's close to Spain, but it's Portugal. I'm feeling a very Spanish vibe today, actually. So that's why I'm drinking beer and stuff. It's super hot. It's super hot around here. And my first band was called Phase. We were, I think, 19 actually. We were called Phase. Yeah, we were 19 when we went to London and Brighton to do our first record through Universal, and Universal thought we were going to be the next U2. So we kind of had an unlimited budget, which for 20-year-olds, that spells disaster all over the place. But long story short, so the name of the band Phase came from the Spiritualized record Pure Phase. And our producer was Darren Allison, which also worked on, among others, Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Space, which for me personally has the song of my life. But we'll go there in a while. Okay. In a nutshell, that's how we got here today. And the last time we spoke, remember the cosmic connection you had as a ladies and gentlemen, I think it was a vinyl record that was wearing a Spiritualized T-shirt, and this was not planned, right?
I do remember that. I and I'm so glad we connected to set up this event,
Yeah.
because I know how impassioned you are about the band's work and the
Mm.
history. And I was trying to think, how do I want to start off our conversation? Like you and I are just sitting in a pub having a drink, right? And just
Yeah.
enjoying what we're about to go through here. And I was thinking
Mm.
and thinking and thinking. And I want to start off our conversation this way. I want to throw you a zinger here. Okay.
Okay.
Then we're going to dive deep here. In one word, you only get one word. How would you describe the impact Spiritualized has made on your life? One word.
Hmm.
And if you want to think about that throughout our conversation and tell us at the end, that would be awesome too.
No, I think I can say it now.
Okay.
Meditation.
I have a feeling that word's going to come up from time and time again. I like that.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. Let's launch into our album, shall we? I want to read you
Mhm.
some albums that came out in 1992.
Okay.
Suzanne
I have
Vega,
this. Yeah.
99.9 degrees. We have Sugar, Copper Blue. That is one hell of an album. The Lemonheads, It's a Shame About Ray.
Mhm.
Uh, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, San Francisco band, became Michael Franti and Spearhead. A few more here for you. The Orb, UFO Orb.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we forget? We cannot forget PJ Harvey and Dry.
Mhm.
REM, Automatic for the People. Now, let's talk about this little
92.
dreamy one, huh? Okay, Laser Guided Melodies. My first entry point for this album was actually from a friend of mine. I was going to a community college, and he was kind of my go-to music buddy. We would go to shoot concerts together in San Francisco. And he said, "Hey, you need to check out this album." And I said, "Okay, great." He goes, "It's not what you're expecting."
All right.
And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Just pay attention to the transitions." I didn't know what that meant. So then
Mm.
I was listening to the album and this album, like, what's he even talking about? And then it hit me. This album is the start of the transitions between songs and how they're all threaded together rather than stopping, pausing, waiting for the next track. And I love how it just bleeds from one song into another.
Yeah.
So, with Laser Guided Melodies and the awesome artwork, tell me about your feelings regarding this album. And are there any tracks that are truly standout tracks for you?
Ah, yeah. Um, there are. So I actually started listening. So I discovered I was a huge Spaceman 3 fan. They had, Spaceman 3. I lived in a neighborhood in my hometown, and in front of my building there was a huge wall painted Spaceman 3 by the older guys. So they brought the records from London. I was like 14, 13 maybe. So Spaceman 3, Spectrum, they had a ton of influence in everything I did from that age till today. But for some reason, I only got to know Spiritualized in Pure Face. Um, then I heard Laser Guided Melodies. So I do think that the whole record should be just one track, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like you said, it's everything flows into the next one. It could be just one track. I actually discovered that record in a lot of detail when we were recording in Brighton and London, because we would get home like 3 a.m. in the morning after a long day recording. We just put on some psychedelics on the TV, and that record sometimes would be on repeat. And the layers and layers of sounds that it has, you just keep on discovering new things. There's some more immediate songs like Run, um, which I wouldn't call them poppy, but they're classics in their own way. Um, but then when you go into, for me, it's songs like Angel Side,
Yes.
Shine a Light.
Yep.
Um, those are the ones that for me define the record. Those layers of guitars, Jason and Mark Refoy just playing with each other. You cannot tell who's playing what at some point. The bass lines are incredible, and you just it's like while we'll get to Pure Phase in a while, but this is a song where it's just sound wise it's massive because it's so intense, everything that's happening from second one right until the end. Um, and it starts with the most beautiful song, I think. It's just a simple, beautiful, incredible love song. Um, it's true. Yeah.
In the the exploration of this band,
Yeah.
so many of Spiritualized albums begin with this song that really sets the tone,
Yeah.
and it builds in crescendos in a way that you think you have it figured out, but then he'll kind of, or they will pull the rug underneath you, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's true. It's very, you get this tender ballad, almost, sweet sound, and then it just kind of,
Yeah.
it's a very cosmic experience
It is. Yeah.
for
And
me.
even songs. Go
Go
ahead. Go
ahead.
ahead. No,
Step
go
into
ahead.
the breeze.
Yeah.
um we get the lovely lush orchestration sound here. And I think at that time, when in 1992, I was at the community college, as I just mentioned. So my brain was starting to open up to these different interpretations of sounds. And I just happened to be like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm fully ready to embrace this style of music. And I will say, I think I saw them on the roller coaster tour. I think they played with Jesus and Mary Chain and Curve.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, all righty, now we've moved the needle over for me, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
So, and I remember the artwork here. Um, the and I just remember staring at this. I had it on CD, so I remember just kind of staring at it and staring at it. And I remember on the CD that, at least on my version, the tracks were in different colors. Did you have? I don't know if you had that. The titles were in different colors.
Can't
Not,
remember.
not
I
sure.
know mine is black with the white figures.
Okay.
That's the one I have, but I can't remember.
It's pretty amazing that this is their first brick in the road. This album.
Yeah, and when you saw them live, so when they go into a song like Smiles, um, the live version is just completely different to the record, right? So the record is kind of hazy, lots of stuff going on, but you know, kind of drifting in space. And then live, you get all those heavy drums, bass, guitars, everything just turns into a rock kind of thing. And that's how I love how the songs can be what they are on the record, but they can also mean, they can be a totally different thing. There is a really good live record around that time called Fucked Up Inside. I think it was a mail order only something. I have it actually. And it's mind blowing. I think it has the best ever version of Angel Side that I've ever heard.
Ooh, I got to hear that.
It's really good.
Okay, so favorite track? Is it Angel Side?
Hard to tell. I mean, between that, Smiles, Take Your Time is also a good one.
So many.
But I'll go with Angel Side.
Okay.
Could be that.
All right. I love it. And for me, Step Into the Breeze. And if you can find, there's I wish I had, I'm actually not in my house. I'm in a different place right now. But there is a great, it's not BBC session. What is it? They did some in-studio sessions things from 1994, 95. And it is incredible. It's just amazing. So it has a great version of that. Step Into the Breeze is my favorite. Okay, 1995. You ready for this? Fugazi, Red Medicine. Sonic Youth, Washing Machine. Yeah. Moby, Everything Is Wrong. That's a hell of an album, by the way. The Chemical Brothers, Exit Planet Dust. Let's do a couple more here. Pulp, another PJ Harvey. And of course, here we go. Here we go. We're going to get some Pure Phase. I'm going to share my first go around with this album, and then I'll let you share, and we'll pick some of our favorite tracks here. So I was so pumped for this album, and I bought it when it came out, and I listened to it nonstop. And one night, it was like around 11:30 at night, I turned off all my lights in the bedroom, and I challenged myself. And this is how I challenged myself. I put the CD player on repeat for that song. And some people have already heard me tell this, so I apologize if you've already heard this before. I had that song on repeat, and I put myself down on my bed. It was pitch black, and I listened to it probably 28 to 30 times straight. And there was no hallucinogenics, nothing. And I just wanted to immerse myself and see what different sounds I could pick up. So Let It Flow was the song that really broke through the spiritualized walls for me. Like, okay, I'm all in. Here's my money. And for me, this album represents great progress in terms of their sound and experimentation. And we get the repetitive, the kind of astronaut sound, if you will.
Hmm.
So for me, I love the flute playing. I love the harmonicas. I love the drums. I love the psych rock, space rock, all of it. And what an incredible leap from from Laser Guided Melodies to this. So your turn to share.
Yeah. Before we go there, the on repeat thing. Um, but I'll have to put a small, how do you say,
Disclaimer.
not disclaimer, because I don't want to talk about it. I have to jump over the uh, slightly illegal substances part. But when we were in the band I was in, Phase, we were in this apartment and we were throwing a party and we played the first Mojave 3 record, and we just let it in repeat all night long. And there were some guys who were DJs at the local club, which is really big. So everyone just kept on coming in, and the whole record was on repeat for the whole night, Mojave 3. And they forgot to go to work at some point. So the sun started coming up, and the same record was still on, and they go, "We skipped work." Anyway, this was long time ago. So yeah, I mean, Pure Phase. I love how you mentioned "Let It Flow," because when I was just driving, so I'm not at home as well. Um, I was just on a 20-minute drive here, and I just put Spiritualized in random. And at some point, "Let It Flow" came up, and I thought if I was to do a Spiritualized gig, this would be the opener, because that sets the tone for everything. Like, um, so brilliant choice, Mr. Dubia. Yeah, I heard the first time I heard them was Good Times in a volume compilation, the CDs we had back in '95. And it had Good Times. I remember hearing it and going, "Whoa, this is the guys from Spaceman 3." You know, I haven't heard them before, and I loved it. I loved the whole bluesy, spacey thing. But then when I got to the record, the songs that really got me, obviously, Good Times, Lay Back in the Sun, those are classics for me. But it's the the softer ones,
Yeah.
like the slide song. The slide song for me, I wrote a song trying to sound like the slide song. Plain and simple. Spread Your Wings. It's one of my all-time favorites. Because and that's why I said meditation a while ago. They take me into this state of you're feeling something and you're kind of levitating away from Earth. And they're just perfect. And while Laser Guided Melodies were layers and layers of sounds, and they were all kind of meshed together. Pure Phase, you can hear everyone playing exactly just one note, and that one note makes the whole difference in a song. Brilliant record. I think I love all the songs there, but for me it's the softer ones.
I'm glad you said that because in my notes, I've heard this album many, many, many times, but I'm always catching new things. And I actually put in my notes here. Um, I said appreciate the quieter moments because it's full flavored experience with these sounds, and sometimes it can be so overwhelming. You need that come down, right?
Yeah.
To really absorb and sponge up what you just heard. So This album to me really is a journey into that beginning soul searching experience.
Mm.
And I put here, Let It Flow. I mean, there's so many great songs here. I ranked every song from 1 to 5, but I put Let It Flow to me is one of the greatest songs ever.
It is.
And we can talk about the repetition of Spiritualized, how they're so repetitive. And I
Mm.
love that. It's very much like an LCD sound system, just
Mm.
driving and pounding the crap out of you. It's like, no, I don't care if this is 9 minutes of the same thing. You're going to find something new. Okay. Now we're going to move in just in the interest of time. 1997, I was at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. Radiohead that year, right? Princess Diana. It was a crazy year.
Mm.
And this was the album that people were just salivating, could not wait. And you're thinking, how the hell are they going to top Pure Phase? What's he going to do next? Well, we get the juggernaut.
Mm.
And I don't want to speak for you, but if I had to guess, this is your baby. This is the one that. So I don't really want to talk about it. Other, I'll share some of my favorite songs. I want to hear you express your love for this album.
So my favorite song ever written is "Ladies and Gentlemen, Refoy in Space." That's for me the best song ever.
Your number one song.
It's my number one, even above "Tomorrow Never Knows."
Okay.
I remember perfectly when I heard it the first time. I was in a local record store, and I used to get my records from a small indie shop, and it was normal to go there and listen to crazy stuff. But this one, for some reason, I was in a mainstream record shop. So where all the families go on Sundays to hear whatever's top of the charts that week. And I went on and I grabbed the CD and I started listening there. And I just kept on putting louder and louder and louder. At some point on the store, I was grabbing my head and I started screaming, thinking, this is the most incredible, awesome song I've ever heard. And everyone was staring, but I couldn't care less. But the way it starts, and then the beeps are genius. By the way, I stole the beeps for a song in my latest EP called "The Longest Road." It ends with a beep, comes from there. But the whole, Elvis like vocals also appearing and disappearing, and the way the song just builds into a climax at the end. For me, it's just perfect. That's perfection. The whole record it's a masterpiece. Like the last gig we did as Phase, we opened with "Come Together," actually.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and there's a "Broken Heart," which I cannot think of a song which is sadder than that one. But it's glorious in all its sadness. There's I think I'm in love. There's no God on only religion. Cop should cop. I mean, it's classic after classic after classic. For me, it's still their best record by far. Okay. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but when you get all of that, it's up there with Pet Sounds. It's up there with Revolver. Like,
Yeah.
it's a classic, nonstop. But that song in particular, that's the one that really drives me insane. Every time, even today, every time I hear it, I'm like, how do you write one of these things? Like,
there's so much going on here, and and I'm not an artist, right? I'm no musician, and I wish I knew more about the making of this album. But how the hell do you throw all these things into it and still make it a cohesive album? Because sometimes, there are some artists or some bands, some albums that just sounds like a big mess. This just sounds control. Okay, so this is how I used to run my classroom. Controlled chaos.
Yeah.
You get the choir, you get all the tremolo, you get all the spaciness, you get
And
the production on
yeah,
it.
yeah. And the guy who produced it, I know him very well. He produced this as well. On that, so the word is chaos. If you hear as a musician or sound engineer, if you hear like the drums on Ladies and Gentlemen, the track, they're mono. It's like
Okay,
one track.
interesting.
How do you? So the actual recording of the album itself, it's not that good. But the mixing and the songs, for me, it's the songs and the way they've put everything together. It's mind blowing. Mind blowing.
Was this? I don't know so much of the history. Was this the last album that Kate
Yeah,
worked on? Okay,
I think so.
okay. I'm sure someone will correct us.
I think so.
Okay, so for me, this is the track. I mean, I agree with you, ladies and gentlemen, but this is the track for me. I'm already getting the goosebumps. So stay with me. I love it when music can elevate you to a whole different platform of feelings, and that's what it does. And
Yeah.
and then, of course, then you end with the bombastic 18-minute epic. Cop Shoot Cop. That's right up there with Nick Cave's Staggerly,
Mhm.
right? It just takes you on this endless parade of sound and chaos.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, okay, strap in, you're going for one more ride.
Yeah.
And I think this term has been used a lot with this band. There's a sense of rebirth and a death, a rebirth feeling, a very orgasmic feeling.
Yeah. I screamed again. There's a movie called Vanilla Sky,
Yes.
which has the Ladies and Gentlemen track on that,
And
and
such
I
an,
didn't know.
yeah,
Yeah, good
an
movie.
important scene.
Yeah, and the scene exactly, and the scene as they're going up in the elevator, and the song starts playing. I was in the movies. That gets in the surround sound of the whole movie theater. And I just stood up and I started clapping and screaming and peeking and saying out loud, holy shit, because that's
It,
just too
it
much to
it's
take.
it's an album that I'm sure you and I could talk about a whole hour
Oh
for,
yeah, yeah,
and maybe we could revisit that. But
yeah.
it really it's a remarkable body of work that I know so many people love and revere. All right, we're going to move to 2001 here. We have
Mm.
Radiohead, Amnesiac, The Strokes, Is This It, which a lot of people love, Bjork, Vespertine, Gorillaz, and then we have Let It Come Down, right? This album is it's interesting because I'm sure in the spiritualized camp, it's very divisive. Some people love it. Some people are like, ugh, what happened? And some people go, okay, I can appreciate different moments of it. What's your feeling on this album?
I think it's nearly as good as Ladies and Gentlemen.
Oh,
Super close.
wow.
Because how do you write a song like "Don't Just Do Something" or "Anything More" or what was the other one? The single "Stop Your Crying."
Yes.
Um, for me, it's a classic. And even the instrumentals. I remember the anything more instrumental. It's just one of those you can leave in repeat. I think there's not a lot of noise going on. It's more polished kind of record. If my memory serves me well, was Abbey Road,
Yeah.
maybe, with a lot of people. I know there was. Remember reading about it. There was a lot of people involved. For me, it's the songwriting. It's. I mean, there's classic after classic after classic. Um, it's not as revolutionary, I would call it, as Ladies and Gentlemen. But in terms of songwriting, I think it's actually better. Okay, some of their best songs are on that record.
Wow.
My
Okay.
my humble opinion. My
I
humble opinion.
I really like it. So there's a
What's
track.
yours?
So I'll get to that here. Hold on. Here it is. Don't just do something. So, quick little story on that song.
Hmm.
I was teaching fourth graders. We do a lot of music in the classroom, and we would do one new song a week, and we would play it every morning and have the lyrics for them. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna try this song with them. Now these are little fourth graders. They don't like this music. Why would they like this music? We practice it. We practice it. And I would mix up the different parts. They were exhausted. It took them 2 months every
Yeah.
day. And the song's 7 minutes long. Finally, we broke through. And I split them into two parts. I had the girls over on one side and the boys. And I said, you know what? Stand up with your lyrics. I had them on sheets. And that made all the difference because it came together like a choir.
Wow.
Because before that, they were sitting down in their chairs. And when they sat up, that changed the entire feel of that song. So that's my recollection, my memory with this album that I'll always take away. I think it's a very good album. It's I think it's a little bit more hit or miss, a little bit up and down. But overall, I agree with you. I like how you still retain the spiritualized sound, but now he's starting to push it into that more gospel feeling. And so that is my number one song. Don't just do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Really good one.
We're gonna go from that album and we're gonna move into the next album. Now, this was interesting because we go from Pure Phase to this little album called Amazing Grace that I remember when it came out, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I've listened to it many times and I think it's great. The songs are not nearly as polished and as developed. They end a little too soon. But they have one spiritualized song in there that is in my top 5 spiritualized songs. Can you guess what it is?
Mm,
I'll give
there's
you a clue. It
there.
has the word Lord in it.
Oh, the Lord let it rain
Yeah.
on me.
Yes. Lord, let it rain on me. So, what's your feeling on this album?
I like it. Again, I'm a sucker for slow love songs.
Yes.
So, you know, Oh Baby. What was the other one? Rated X.
Rated X, yes.
Lay It Down Slow. I think it's called like that. Love and yeah, and Lord Let It Rain on Me. I love slow ballads. I love them. Don't ask why. I do. And this album is full of them. But the heavier moments, what I love about it, it's really raw. Right? There's not a lot of production going on this record. Try and polish things. Just throw it in the studio, play it, and that's it. Done. I like the record. It's not like on my top 10 of all time, but I like it. I love the way it starts. Super, you know, almost like raw power era Stooges,
Yes.
noisy, raw. Um, and then if I had to pick a song, probably Rated X would be the one. Probably. But Lord Rain on Me, it's a contender as well.
Yeah.
But overall, good record. Just for me, not super amazing, but good. I mean,
So, if you can catch it, check it out on YouTube. You probably have seen it. Spiritualized live in Reykjavik.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
It's an outdoor performance, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely gorgeous and stunning. And they do this beautiful, spine-tingling version of "Lord, Let It Rain on Me." It's just fabulous. Okay, let's go to our next album here. Songs in A&E, 2008. I'm just going to get it over with right now. I will say it right now.
Yeah.
Some people love this album, and some people go, and I'm one of those. It's an album I have had a hard time getting through. And there are some obviously wonderful elements to it. There are some amazing tracks. There's something very cold and sterile to me about this album. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But it is my least favorite album by theirs.
Could be. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, could be. I love the harmony bits. Like those little interludes they've put between the songs. But there isn't a song that I can just name out of that record. So I haven't heard to that actually a long, long time. So I guess I just at the time just listened to it and remember loving the interludes, the harmony bits, and that's about it. And I also saw them live around that period, and they weren't so good, to be honest. I have seen much better since then.
Okay. They do a song in here. It's called "I Got a Fire." It's like this. It's like it's a nice tribute to Rolling Stones. It sounds like that to me. But I just feel as though as an overall album, it doesn't punch me. And maybe I felt like it could have been trimmed a little bit, trimmed some of the fat.
Yeah.
It's a long out. You know what? Here, Ricardo, we've got a special guest, a surprise guest. Should we bring him in?
Yeah.
All right. Let me see who's here. Special guest, a surprise guest. Should we bring him in?
Yeah.
All right. Let me see. Mark Refoy, how are you doing? Uh-oh. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. I better warn you, my signal is not very good.
Oh, that's okay. Such a pleasure to meet you. My name is William, and you know Ricardo.
Yeah.
Hi, William. Hi, Ricardo.
We haven't met before. Hi. We
How you
haven't
doing?
met before, other than the records I listen to. But thanks for being here. Nice
Yes,
guitar on the background.
it's
My
such a
pleasure.
pleasure. It's such a pleasure having you, and thank you for your time. As you've probably been hearing, we're taking a deep dive into spiritualized work. Do you mind sharing us kind of your experience under this spiritualized work?
Yeah, sure. It's a long time ago. We were very much in our own little world, really. When there wasn't a massive amount of communication. Obviously, we would be guided by Jason. He would come up with the bare bones of the songs, and a lot of the time we'd just be playing away in our own little world, and we translate that to the stage. And but it was very, very well thought out, but at the same time it was very free form, and yeah, a kind of blend of the two, really.
Do you mind sharing kind of your responsibility in the band work? As far as instruments, like what did you bring to the table?
Very simple guitar playing.
And how did you get asked to be part of that experience? Did you know Jason, or like what how did that come about?
I first saw Spaceman 3 in a little pub in Northampton in August 1985. So, my God, it's nearly 40 years ago, 38 years ago. And they were fantastic. It was just Pete, Jason, and Natty. And there was no words. They were just amazing. I'll never forget it. And I think it had the same effect on a lot of people at that time. Pat Fish was at that very same little gig, Jazz Butcher. They blew everybody's minds, and I was a big fan from then on. And then I went to see, because my friend Johnny was the last drummer in Spaceman 3, Johnny Mattock. And I went to see them at the Waterman's Arts Centre in 1989 sometime. I don't know when. And Pete asked me to join Spaceman 3. So that's how I knew them already. And I'd got them, they recorded these demos, which came to be known as the Northampton demos, because my friend Carlo Morocco had a studio in a little house in his garden, and so they recorded these like fantastic versions of Walking with Jesus, Hey Man, Losing Touch with My Mind, a bunch of others, which I forget what they became the Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs to CD, also known as the Northampton demos. Not actually recorded in Northampton, about 6 miles outside of Northampton, but so yeah, I put them onto that guy with his studio, and they liked the vibe out there.
Yeah.
And I would go and see them various times over the years. And then Pete asked me, when I went to see them at the Waterman's Arts Centre, Pete asked me to join them as an extra guitarist. It blew my mind. I thought, why is he asking me? I've already got a guitarist, Jason. Why do they need another one? But I was only in them for a few months. I think we did 3 or 4 gigs. The last one was the Reading Festival. But with the extra guitar, it did beef up the sound, you know, considerably. But even though I was in them, I don't really think of myself as a you know, a pivotal member of Spacemen 3 at all. I was just totally blown away to be asked by Pete to add to the sound, and yeah, it was great. So when
go ahead.
When the band dissolved, well, dissolved isn't the right word, but when Spacemen 3 ended, Spiritualized carried on, and Jason asked me if I would carry on playing with him in this yet to be named band. So that is how I became involved with Jason and Spiritualized.
So I have to ask you, if you don't mind, when you hear Laser Guided Melodies now, or any of the albums that you lent your musicianal prowess on, do you still have that great feeling of like, wow, we really accomplished some amazing shit here?
No, I never thought that. To me, it was work. It was obviously I like it, and when we were doing it, we were totally absorbed in it. All of us, we were absolutely totally into it. But I had no idea I'd be talking about it 30 odd years down the line. It's just such a. I'm constantly surprised by how much it means to people. I mean, I like it. I think it's brilliant. And I'm really proud to be a part of it. And we were so absorbed doing it, and we would agonize over tiny little things. But I think every band does, don't they? Every band has their own mojo and aesthetic, and we had ours, but a lot of it was instinctive, and a lot of it was telepathic almost, without sounding too out there. You know, we were all, it was the right people at the right time, clicking, and it just worked.
So when you hear songs, I Want You, Run, Smile, Step into the Breeze, were any of those songs at that time that you can remember were just a major pain in the ass? You just couldn't quite get it right? Or did they tend to just kind of flow out of all of you?
Yeah. We would just rehearse in Jason's flat, and we'd just get it right. Going to the studio was a different story. The studio was a place of experimentation. We wouldn't go too far from the template, but it was when we would rehearse for live shows, that would be a different mindset as to like prepping for a studio session or something like that. When we went to the studio, it was very much let's see what happens, and guided very much by Jason's vision, you know, because he would have the basic ideas for songs. I remember when he came up with Shine a Light, he was just started rehearsing it in the back room of the Imp, this pub in Rugby where we used to rehearse, and I just went, "What's that? That's brilliant. That's fantastic." So we just jammed it, and had no idea what it would end up as. But I think that's the beauty of when you've got an innocent, open mind, you're just prepared to go with whatever. If something sounds great, then you want it to sound great, even if that means that you don't do anything. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
So I've got another question. And Ricardo, if you have a question, I want you to ask Mark too. In the live experience, that I've had the pleasure of seeing 4 times now. In the live experience for the audience, for me, it's close my eyes. I don't give a shit who I'm standing next to. I'm just going to close my eyes and just take it all in. When you practice for the live concert experience, did you talk to each other and say, all right, we want to go for a very specific feel that is different from the album?
No, that's the short answer.
Wow.
I tell you, I remember at Newcastle Riverside, I don't know what year this was, maybe 91. I know it was Jason, Kate, Willie, Johnny, and myself lineup. And the last song, was it Shine a Light? And then at the end of that, we just started developing this drone. I think Kate was carrying on playing a keyboard, and we just played around this. None of us said anything. We didn't even look up at each other. We just carried on playing, and it turned out eventually down the line it became Electric Mainline, and that was all of us just in the moment.
Yeah.
Boom. And then it became a staple part of the set. I think we'd always go into it after Shine a Light, which is what we did in Newcastle at that gig. So yeah, we would never sit down at a rehearsal and go, right, yeah, what we're going to do out there. I mean, there was one time I remember we played with the idea of not having a set list with words, but just like symbols. So, but we'd have to know which song was married with which symbol. We never did that, but that was the ideas that we were thinking of at the time, you know. I mean, the lighting, Paddy had a lot to do with the whole live experience as well. Paddy Farr, who I still believe is still working with Spiritualized to this day. I mean, his lighting was as much a part of the live experience of Spiritualized as any of us. And but bear in mind, this is a long time ago, and for many years, I didn't really think much at all about Spiritualized. But
is that only Jason right now?
Pardon?
Is that Jason calling you right now?
Doubt it very much. Hold on, Jason. I'll speak later, mate. No, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, it's only in the past. I don't know why, but the past couple of years, I've been thinking a lot about Spiritualized, and thinking that with the benefit of hindsight, and now that a long period of time has gone by, I can look back at it and think, yeah, that was good. You know, all of the petty sort of grievances that I had at the time, not that I did have any really, but they've all become now less important compared to what we did as a group. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a bed of roses. It was fraught at times, and it was difficult, but it was worth it.
And I have to think the challenges that you had, whatever it may be, it manifests itself in the music somehow. Ricardo, do you have a question for Mark? I got 50.
I do. So, you know, I revise myself in so many things, because so you've done the last bits of Spaceman. Pete's actually my neighbor, because he lives.
He lives in Portugal,
Sintra.
doesn't he? Yeah. Do you see him?
No, I've seen Samantha.
Oh yes,
Samantha, not Pete actually. But we live like 10 minutes from each other. We go to the same studio. But Spaceman 3, then Spiritualized, and then Slipstream, which I would love to go there in a while. You know, all of these years, you were just saying, when you look back, it's not a bed of roses and stuff. I don't know if you were listening to the conversation, but when I was around 20, 19, 20, was in a band. We went to London, made a record. Universal threw a ton of money to small kids. We got Darren Allison, which later did Ladies and Gentlemen to record it. We hold the record for the most expensive first album ever in Portugal. Now we still hold it. But
I want to
have
hear
you, you know,
I want to hear it now.
okay. I'm not so proud of it actually. I think it. Well, I won't go into that now, but it's a bit too polished for what we tried. But did you think when you were doing those records like Laser Guided Melodies, we touched upon Fucked Up Inside as well some time ago, that, you know, more than 20 years later, actually way more, like 30 years later, they would still have such a massive impact in what's happening in music at the moment?
Did I think that? No, I had no idea. No idea. I think because we were just too involved in it. And if we, at the time, if we started going, oh yeah, in 20 years' time, they will know what we're doing. We were doing it for the moment then. It was then that we were doing it for. It wasn't like 20 years in the future. It was, I mean, I think it's fantastic that people down the line think it's, you know, it is what it is. And I'm so honored that people think like that. I mean, I did have an idea that, you know, it wasn't going to be a fly by night. People would forget us in a couple of years. I knew that wasn't going to be the case, but I didn't think that people would be as into it as they are so far down the line, and hopefully it will be like that forever. I think it's testament to the fact that we were honest in what we were doing. We weren't blinkered by we weren't doing it for money or fame or anything like that. It's just a genuine obsession with sound and guitars and studios and our influences, you know. We weren't all influenced by the same artist, but we did have a bedrock of powerful influences. And yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. So quick question here, because we've seen, you know, interviews and stuff where some names usually come along as influences, like the 13th Floor Elevators and others. But this is more on the Jason side. So what were yours?
My influences.
Those guitar sounds are amazing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'd have to say Slade were my first love as a band. That's when I was 12, 11, 12, 13. When I was 13, I got into the Beatles, and I love them to this day. And then punk came along, and I absolutely was floored by the first Clash album, loads of punk records. Then I got into the blues, Elmore James, Robert Johnson, blah, 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 Muddy Waters, all that. And it was only when I met Jason and Pete that I heard of the 13th Floor Elevators and the Electric Prunes and stuff like that. And then I subsequently got into them after being, you know, informed about them by Jason. I mean, Jason and Pete and all the guys in rugby, they had a vast encyclopedic knowledge of obscure underground 60s stuff. And it was just like an education, you know. But I also love craft work. I've loved them since I was 17. Absolutely love Joy Division, New Order, The Clash. I said The Clash.
Ricardo, you and I are just smiling.
I'm smiling since you said Slade, because on that band that I had when I was 20, we were trying to clone Ride, maybe Bit of Spaceman, Adorable, and all of those shoegazers of the time. But at some point, I heard the Slade record that has How Do You Ride? I can't remember the name.
That's that one, Slade.
Exactly.
How do you ride? Yeah,
Exactly.
Great tune.
I had the vinyl at home. My dad had it, and I just took his record collection. One day I put it on. I was like, wow. Yeah. So I just took it to the band and said, you gotta listen to this stuff.
Guys, can you excuse me for 10 seconds? Back in 10 seconds.
This is great. I'm glad we're able to get Mark Refoy. By the way, my name is W, also known as William, host of the High Art on the Edge page. I'm here with Ricardo Fiel and Mark Refoy.
Sorry about that.
And we're talking about some spiritualized adventures and experiences. Thank you, Mark. Mark, I've got 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
I got to know some of your work through Side Effects album, Slipstream. And when I was at college, there's a song that I used to blast in the dorm. I mean, blast. So I'm going to ask you, I just have to ask you since I have you here. Okay, so this is Come Back, but here it comes. I have a question. So right here. My roommate would get so annoyed with me. He's like, not that song again. That is one of my favorite tunes.
Oh,
when you hear, yeah, I mean, and there's so many great songs from this album. When you hear Side Effects now, and do you want to tell us a little bit about your work as Slipstream?
Side Effects was a compilation of singles and extra tracks that we hadn't put on albums. Slipstream came about. I wasn't aiming to form a band. This is tying up with my last days in Spiritualized. We recorded Pure. I was just as involved in Pure Phase as I was with Laser Guided Melodies, but I was getting very frustrated because a lot of the stuff that I was writing didn't seem to get a look in, which is understandable. And so I was doing my own little songs here and there. And at the time, I don't think Jason was too enamored of me constantly beavering away on my own, doing my own stuff. Anyway, it came to the point where I had to part company with Spiritualized, and whether I left or whether I got kicked out, I think that's something that only I will know. But it doesn't really matter. It's no big deal. But anyway, the guys at Shea heard my demos, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to put out a song called Sundown as a 7-inch." So I was just blown away that. And they only got hold of the demo by accident. They saw the cassette tape lying in somebody's office. Somebody who'd listened to it thought, I don't like that. And Nick and Vanita saw the cassette and they said, "Oh, who's this?" And they said, "Oh, it's some guy who was in Spiritualized." And they went, "Oh, can we borrow it?" So they took it home, listened to it, and they got in touch with me and said, "We'd like to put Sundown out as a single." I said, "Oh, fantastic. But you've got to have a band." And I thought, well, I don't really want to start a band. You know, can I just do it on my own name, with my own name or whatever? No, I didn't actually want to do my own name. I thought because they're going to put a single out, then I'm going to have a band. So I flicked through my record collection and came across Astral Weeks, Van Morrison, and there's a song called Queen of the... there's the lyric, If I Ventured into the Slipstream, on... it's the first song, I think. What's the song called on Astral Weeks? Anyway, that's the lyric. And I thought, all right, fair enough. And then I was going through my records even more, and there was another Van Morrison record, and there was a song called Queen of the Slipstream, and I thought, Slipstream, that'll do. So I phoned Nick and Vanita and I said, yeah, the name of the band is Slipstream. And I didn't think anything more of it. And then a bit further down the line, there was this comment made by a journalist saying, oh yeah, Mark Refoy is in the slipstream of spiritualized success. And I thought, oh, that wasn't what wasn't my intention, but c'est la vie. That's what happened. It was a very sort of I mean, even though Slipstream is still existing today, it's just myself and Johnny Mattock. But we did have a band, and it was just a collection of friends from Northampton, from other bands, and yeah, I mean, obviously, it didn't have the same kind of profile or success as Spiritualized, but we had just as good a time, and it was just another story, another part of my, musical journey.
Well, we'd be happy to have a Slipstream conversation, and I know it's boy, I feel like we could be here for 4 more hours. I love it. Is there one more story, a spiritualized story, you're like, I have to share this? Is there like a concert experience? Yeah. Okay, let's hear
it. We had a lot of fun in Spiritualized when I was with them. I mean, there's this image that we are very sort of like po-faced, serious on stage, but we had a laugh. And I remember when we went to the roller coaster tour with Jesus and Mary Chain and Curve. Yes. And we went to Chicago, and we were playing was it the Agora Theatre Ballroom? Anyway, it was a big gig in Chicago, and Jason he was a bit edgy, and he wasn't happy with the tour manager. And he said something like, "Oh, I want to go home." And I just thought, "Oh no, we can't do this." Anyway, myself and Jason we got a cab into to a music shop, a nearby music shop, to get guitar strings or whatever and stuff like that. And I thought I was going to try and cheer him up or something. And anyway, we got to this music shop, and there's a whole display of I think it was Boss effects pedals. There must have been about 50 of them. And I said, God, and some instrument was wired up to it, but there wasn't somebody playing a guitar or anything like that. So I turned one on, I turned another one on, Jason turned a couple on, and I can't remember if it was me or him, but we both thought, I wonder what it would sound like if they're all on. So we just pressed every single pedal on, and this just massive cacophony just ripped the place apart. And this guy who worked there came over, and we tried to turn it off, but we just could not turn it off. We would go, "Oh God, what have we done?" Anyway, this really irate guy came over, and he just flicked a switch, and he went, "Don't do that again, man," or whatever. So that kind of like cleared the air, really, and we went back to the gig and had a great gig, and it seemed that Jason was all right after that. So yeah, we had a good tour.
How do you have your hearing intact?
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah.
The question is, do you have your hearing intact?
Luckily, yeah. I mean, I've got a bit of tinnitus. Actually, if I think about it, it's there all the time. But it doesn't really bother me. So it's not as bad as it could be, thankfully. I wear plugs now if I'm doing a gig. So
yeah, sure.
You have to.
You know, it happened to me the other day, and I love like super loud stuff. Watching like My Bloody Valentine live without earplugs, because you want to have the experience, right? But I listen. I did some tests, and I listen. So one of my ears is not so good anymore. And the other day, I went to a local band in Lisbon. They invited me to see the rehearsal, and they went, "Do you want earplugs?" And I'm like, "Nah." And they started playing, and they played really loud. And I'm thinking, I'm old, you know.
You've
Not
reached
stand the I'm old.
that.
But that's a really good story with the effects.
That is a great story. Ricardo, could you do me?
Huh?
I just sent you a message on Facebook. Can you just check that message, Ricardo? Mark, anything else you want to share about Slipstream? Anything coming out that we can expect?
There is another album, but it's yet to be mixed, yet to be compiled. You know what songs are going to go on it. I'm also working on a covers album with loads of different covers, some unexpected stuff. None of your obscure 60s Pebbles garage stuff, unfortunately. You know, can't really do that stuff justice anyway. But there's a lot of stuff on our SoundCloud. I mean, you know our SoundCloud page, don't you, Ricardo?
Yeah.
So
I love how you're still. I didn't know, so I got to know Slipstream when Your Presence, the single, came out with 4 songs. This was I didn't even know it was you at the time. I just got the record, said, "Wow, love the 4 songs." And then recently, I was like, "Wow, you know, Slipstream's still active. There's a ton of stuff on Bandcamp." So I need to catch up. So good for that. I will catch up.
Great, thank you.
So good to know.
I imagine some of those cover songs, Mark, will be either Slade or Van Morrison.
Actually, no, I'm not worthy. Actually,
if you do Slide, count me in for that.
I was going to cover an old Slade song called Pook Hill, and it's on their first album, but it turned into a song called Bradlaugh Fields Forever, which was on the last Slipstream album. So I've kind of covered them by default.
Yeah, you're covered there. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. We're actually going to wrap this up. We're going to have a part 2 of our spiritualized conversation. It's just such a massive conversation. And when we get to that, we'll continue to speak more about albums such as Song A and E. We'll go into one of my favorites. And then another, Everything Was Beautiful. So Ricardo and I will be back later in the year, and we'll have a part 2 conversation of spiritualized work. Mark Refoy, thank you so much for being our surprise guest. Much appreciated.
I was honored. Thank you.
Ricardo, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate you sharing your love and enthusiasm for their work, and I'm looking forward to part 2 of our conversation. Ricardo, anything you want to share that you're working on, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on the next release. Mark,
Okay.
do you want to say something?
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I have to go now. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye
now.
Mark.
Bye-bye.
Super cool stories coming from him.
Great stories.
We need to do part 2.
We do.
Yeah, so I'm working on 2 different things at the moment. So I want to do. I don't want to do an album yet.
Okay.
I was just getting a lot of pressure in my head to you got to release this thing and another EP and maybe an album and get a label and I'm thinking, just fuck it. That's the word. Like, no, I'm gonna do music when I want to, how I want to. Yes, I'm gonna add some deadline to it, but it's not gonna be I have to do an album every year or something. So at the moment, I just had this massive creativity thing going on. So I laid out like 7 songs additionally. So now I have like 20 to work on.
Okay.
There's definitely a lot more music coming from Moon Cowboy this year and next one. What exactly, I'm not so sure anymore because there's a lot of different things.
Okay.
Can be shoegaze, can be country, can be dance music. At this time, I have no idea.
Wait, are you saying you're gonna make the next whatever it is, your creativity is just gonna flow into it, and whatever you put out there, I'm gonna enjoy. And it's gonna be I have an album title for you already.
Let me hear it.
Fuck it.
Actually, I had this idea of one day releasing a covers record, just like Mark was saying. And I do have some covers I really want to do. And I started playing with some of them. And I'm gonna title that record the Fuck Playlist. Because it's those songs when you hear them, you go, fuck.
Yes. Yes.
So there you go. I'm gonna do an album called the Fuck Playlist sometime in the not so near future, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. Ricardo, thank you so much for part 1 of our Spiritualized talk. We will go more into songs in
Thank you,
A&E,
sir.
Sweetheart, Sweet Light, and Nothing Hurts, and then we'll wrap it up with Everything is Beautiful. And who knows what surprise guests we may get on at that time. Again, my name is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments, feel free to put them in regarding Spiritualized and the amazing, amazing body of work they have produced over the years. Take care, everyone. We will see you later. Ciao.